You're doing everything right, affirmations, vision boards, endless visualizations. Yet the results still don't move. What if the problem isn't that you're doing too little, but that you're doing too much? Every forced thought, every repeated phrase, every attempt to control the outcome adds more noise to the signal you're trying to send. Now picture the opposite. A quiet mind, a steady breath, a single clear intention held without strain. No chasing, no checking, no mental pressure. Just space. And in that space, reality has room to shift. If your manifestation feels stuck, the next breakthrough might not come from trying harder, it might come from thinking less. Have you ever felt as if no matter how hard you try, no matter how many affirmations you repeat, or how many visualizations you force yourself to do, your dreams remain just out of reach? You're not alone. In the world of manifestation, this is one of the most common struggles. The misconception that the more effort you put in, the faster or more certain your results will appear. We are taught that manifestation is about trying harder, thinking more, and controlling every detail in our mind. But what if I told you that this belief is, in fact, the very thing that keeps your desires suspended just beyond your grasp? That the key to true quantum manifestation is not doing more, but thinking less? It's a subtle shift, yet a profound one. Imagine the last time you felt fully alive, completely at ease, perhaps walking in nature or laughing with someone you love, or even lying awake at night watching the stars. Notice how effortless life felt in those moments. You were not trying to manipulate reality, yet somehow everything seemed aligned. That ease, that natural flow, is the essence of manifestation. The contradiction may surprise you. The harder you try to force things, the more resistance you create. And the quieter your mind becomes, the more reality has the space to respond to your deepest intentions. Many seekers enter the realm of manifestation with a notebook full of affirmations, a vision board plastered with images, and a checklist of techniques that promise guaranteed results. And yet, after weeks or months of relentless effort, they feel stuck, frustrated, or even exhausted. This is where the distinction between ordinary self-effort and quantum alignment becomes crucial. The ordinary self believes that it must do in order to receive. It believes that reality is a puzzle to be solved with enough mental effort, planning, and action. But the quantum self understands that reality is not a puzzle. It is a living field of infinite possibilities, responsive not to force, but to awareness, intention, and resonance. Think of your mind like a radio. If the frequency is cluttered with static, overthinking, stress, doubts, no clear signal can get through. Every thought you obsess over, every affirmation you repeat mechanically, and every visualization you push yourself to hold is like adding more noise to the static. Your desires, instead of aligning with you, bounce off that mental interference. In contrast, when your mind quiets, when you reduce the chatter and release the need to control, it is as though you've tuned to the exact frequency of the universe. At this frequency, reality responds not to your frantic trying but to your natural presence. This is not to say that thoughts are useless or that intention does not matter. On the contrary, intention is the compass of manifestation. But there is a difference between intention as a quiet, clear directive, and intention as mental obsession. The first opens doors, the second slams them shut. Think of it like holding a butterfly. Squeezing tightly in your desire to possess it will only frighten it away. But if you extend your hand with gentle openness, if you simply exist in that space of calm receptivity, the butterfly may land on you effortlessly. The principle is the same in manifestation. The less you try to force, the more the universe flows toward you. Another way to understand this is by contrasting your old self with the new self you wish to become. The old self is desperate, anxious, and constantly calculating every step to ensure success. It watches the clock, repeats rituals obsessively, and measures progress in linear outcomes. The new self, the quantum self, is calm, spacious, and trusting. It does not need to monitor every thought or action. It is anchored in the certainty that reality is alive and responsive. The more you embody this calm presence, the more your desires manifest naturally, often in ways far beyond what your old effort-driven self could have engineered. It may feel counterintuitive at first. Our culture conditions us to equate effort with results. From school to career to personal goals, we are rewarded for trying harder, for pushing through discomfort, for grinding toward a desired outcome. But manifestation is different. Here, the very energy of trying often acts as a resistance field. Imagine trying to walk through water while tensing every muscle to force yourself forward. The harder you push, the heavier the water feels. The moment you relax, float, and allow the water to support you, movement becomes effortless. Manifestation works the same way. It is not about muscle but about fluidity. Not about force but about alignment. So how do we begin to practice this subtler, quieter form of manifestation? The first step is awareness. Begin noticing when your mind is overactive, when your thoughts spin in loops, when anxiety or fear takes over. See these moments not as failures but as indicators, signals that you are in the old pattern of trying too hard. Next, invite spaciousness. Give yourself permission to pause, to breathe, to exist without striving. In these moments of inner calm, you are no longer colliding with reality. You are creating a fertile space where possibilities can emerge naturally. The universe is always present, always responsive. Your job is simply to quiet the interference and allow the response to arrive. It is also helpful to distinguish between clarity and obsession. You do not need to control every detail of how your desire will manifest. You only need to hold the essence of what you wish to experience. The specifics will often emerge in ways you cannot predict, and this is part of the magic. Quantum manifestation is not a recipe, it is a dialogue. You do not command the universe like a rigid blueprint. You co-create with it, offering clear intention and then stepping back, letting the field move. This is why fewer thoughts often yield more results. The less interference, the more seamless the co-creation. And here lies a profound spiritual insight. Manifestation is not about doing more, it is about being more. Being aligned, being receptive, being present. It is about embodying the energy of the life you wish to experience, without clinging or striving. In this state, every thought becomes meaningful, every action flows naturally, and every moment is infused with possibility. The contrast between the exhausted doer self and the calm observer self becomes stark. One struggles against reality, the other dances with it. One seeks externally, the other knows internally that the universe is always responsive. One adds layers of mental noise, the other subtracts, simplifying to the essence. The more you inhabit the observer self, the fewer thoughts you need, and yet the more powerful your manifestation becomes. So if you have been pushing, forcing, and repeating techniques without results, know that it is not your fault. It is simply a reflection of a common misconception. Manifestation is not about effort, it is about ease. It is about creating the inner conditions for reality to mirror your highest self. And here is the invitation. Step back from the relentless mental activity. Let go of the need to control outcomes. Embrace spaciousness, silence, and alignment. Allow your desires to flow to you, not through brute mental effort, but through a natural, quiet, confident presence. This is where the transformation begins, not in adding more thoughts, but in subtracting the ones that no longer serve you. Your journey into quantum manifestation is not about trying harder. It is about becoming the space in which manifestation occurs. And as you begin to feel this shift, the gentle ease replacing struggle, the calm replacing anxiety, you will discover that reality itself starts to move in response to your inner state. What once seemed impossible begins to unfold effortlessly. And you will realize that fewer thoughts do not limit your manifestation, they amplify it. Now that we have begun to understand the importance of quieting the mind and letting go of excessive effort, it's time to explore why fewer thoughts are actually more powerful in the quantum field. This concept might feel counterintuitive, because we live in a culture that glorifies mental activity. From morning until night, our minds are bombarded with information, worries, plans, and tasks. We are conditioned to believe that constant thinking and problem-solving is the key to success. But when it comes to manifestation, the very activity we have been trained to rely on often becomes the barrier that keeps us from achieving what we desire most. The truth lies in the nature of consciousness itself. Every thought carries an energy signature. Each one subtly influences the reality you experience not only in small ways, but in the very architecture of your life. When thoughts are scattered, repetitive, or filled with fear, doubt, or obsession, they create a field of interference that blocks clarity and alignment. Imagine a radio trying to pick up a delicate signal while thousands of other stations are broadcasting over it at the same time. The signal becomes weak, distorted, and difficult to perceive. In the quantum realm, your mind works in exactly the same way. Excessive thinking creates static, and static prevents the manifestation of pure potential. This is why the principle of fewer thoughts is so potent. It is not about suppressing the mind or avoiding thinking entirely. It is about choosing which thoughts matter, and allowing the rest to dissolve naturally. The energy of a single clear intention is far stronger than 1,000 scattered attempts to control reality. One thought, aligned with your highest self, can ripple through the quantum field in ways that dozens of frantic thoughts never could. This is why so many seekers, when they finally let go of obsession and mental overdrive, report that their desires appear almost magically, often in ways they had not anticipated or meticulously planned. One of the key factors in this process is what I like to call mental spaciousness. This is the ability to create an inner field of calm, to step back from the constant chatter of the mind, and to allow your consciousness to become a receptive canvas. When the mind is busy, constantly thinking, calculating, and repeating, it is like trying to paint a masterpiece on a canvas that is shaking violently. But when you are still, when your mind is quiet, your consciousness becomes a stable, fertile space in which reality can take form. In this space, the universe responds directly to the energy you are radiating rather than to the chaos of your thoughts. Consider the contrast between a cluttered mind and a spacious mind in daily life. When your thoughts are racing, you are constantly second-guessing, analyzing, and worrying about what could go wrong. Every thought sends a subtle signal to the universe: I am not ready, I am not enough, I do not trust this process. The more these thoughts accumulate, the more resistant reality becomes. On the other hand, when your mind is quiet, even for a few moments each day, you signal to the universe that you are aligned, receptive, and confident. This alignment is magnetic. It does not need effort, coercion, or manipulation. It simply draws your desires to you naturally. Scientific principles help us understand why this works. Quantum physics shows us that the observer, the consciousness that perceives reality, affects outcomes at a fundamental level. Your attention, your awareness, your energetic focus has a direct impact on how reality unfolds. But notice carefully, it is not about thinking more. It is about the quality and clarity of awareness. A calm, focused observer has far more influence than a scattered, anxious thinker. By reducing the mental noise, you are essentially amplifying the power of your attention. You are creating a clear channel through which possibility can flow unimpeded. Neuroscience also offers insight. Studies have shown that overthinking and rumination activate stress pathways in the brain, flooding the system with cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals tighten perception, narrow focus, and limit creativity. In contrast, moments of stillness, meditation, or deep presence activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the state of rest, receptivity, and restoration. In this state, the brain becomes more flexible, the imagination more vivid, and the ability to resonate with desired outcomes stronger. Fewer thoughts mean less stress, more clarity, and a greater ability to align with the life you wish to experience. Let's explore an example. Imagine you are trying to manifest a new job. If you are constantly thinking, I need this job, I need it now, I am not enough, what if I fail? Each of these thoughts creates vibration that is misaligned with success. The more you repeat them, the more you reinforce resistance. But if you focus instead on the feeling of being in the job, the satisfaction, the growth, the joy, without obsessing over every step or outcome, you are creating a clear and powerful resonance. Your mind becomes like a calm lake. Toss in one stone of intention, and the ripples spread far and wide, attracting opportunities that were previously invisible to you. This is also why spiritual traditions often emphasize surrender and non-attachment. To manifest with the quantum field, you must learn to release the compulsion to think, predict, and control. Fewer thoughts create less resistance. Less resistance allows the flow of abundance, creativity, and possibility to enter your life. This is the paradox at the heart of manifestation. Doing less, thinking less, and letting go often produces far more than trying harder ever could. The universe responds not to force, but to resonance, not to noise, but to clarity, not to obsession, but to presence. Emotional resonance amplifies this effect. When your thoughts are quiet, you are more attuned to your inner feelings, which are the true indicators of alignment. Your emotions are the feedback system of the quantum field. They tell you whether your vibration matches your desires. By focusing on how you want to feel, rather than the mechanics of how things will happen, you are sending the most potent signal possible. Fewer thoughts, combined with clear emotional guidance, create a powerful synergy that draws reality toward you effortlessly. It is also essential to recognize the role of contrast in this process. Think about the last time you experienced something that was effortless, joyful, or deeply aligned. Now contrast that with the times when you forced, struggled, or overthought. The difference is palpable. This contrast is not accidental, it is instructive. It shows us that the mind is often at odds with the natural flow of reality, and that stepping back, letting go, and thinking less is not a weakness. It is a strategic alignment with the intelligence of the universe itself. The fewer the thoughts, the greater the coherence. The greater the coherence, the faster and more beautiful the manifestations. Finally, consider the metaphor of a magnet. A magnet does not try to pull metal toward itself. It simply exists with its energy intact, and the metal naturally moves in response. Your consciousness functions in the same way. The less cluttered, more focused, and more aligned your mental state, the stronger your magnetic pull becomes. Thoughts are not the force that moves reality, they are the signal. Fewer, more precise thoughts transmit a signal that the quantum field can respond to with astonishing efficiency. In practice, cultivating fewer thoughts requires consistent awareness and gentle discipline. It means observing your mind without judgment, noticing the chatter, and allowing unnecessary mental noise to dissolve. It means prioritizing clarity over quantity, quality over volume. And most importantly, it means trusting that the universe is infinitely intelligent, and that your desires are already on their way to you. By embracing fewer thoughts, you step into the natural rhythm of creation, where ease replaces struggle, presence replaces obsession, and alignment replaces control. Now let's take a closer look at the deeper shift that allows manifestation to truly happen, the shift from the old self to the observer self. Most of us spend our lives identifying completely with the reactive mind, the version of ourselves that clings to fears, doubts, and old stories. This self believes that outcomes must be forced into existence, that control is necessary, and that effort alone determines reality. It is the part of you that measures success by struggle, that evaluates life through a lens of scarcity, and that reacts to every challenge as if the universe were a hostile or indifferent place. The old self operates on the principle of effort and mental doing. It obsesses over the how, replays the past, and worries about the future, forgetting entirely that the present moment is the space where reality actually emerges. Contrast this with the observer self, the aspect of you that is quiet, calm, and aware. The observer does not react in desperation. It perceives without judgment, notices without clinging, and allows the natural flow of reality to reveal itself. It is not passive as many might think. Rather, it is fully present, fully aware, and fully aligned with the energetic fabric of the universe. While the old self is tense and straining, the observer self is spacious and expansive. The difference is subtle yet profound. The observer self creates reality not by force but by resonance. It understands that manifestation is not about doing, controlling, or calculating. It is about embodying the state of being that your desired reality already exists within. The observer self is the silent witness behind your thoughts, the consciousness that notices fear without being consumed by it, that perceives limitation without accepting it as truth. It is the part of you that can say, I see these thoughts but I am not them, or, I acknowledge this fear but I do not have to act from it. This detachment is not cold or disinterested, it is powerful, loving, and deeply present. The observer self knows that the universe responds to clarity, not chaos, to alignment, not tension. By cultivating this self, you step out of the endless cycle of trying and into a space where manifestation is not only possible but inevitable. Consider a moment from everyday life. You have a desire, perhaps a new opportunity, a relationship, or a personal transformation you long for. The old self might respond with anxiety, I have to make this happen. I need to control the outcome. What if I fail? These thoughts trigger tension, resistance, and doubt, which are immediately felt by your nervous system and reflected in your energy field. You are signaling to the universe that you are not aligned, that you are uncertain, that you are holding on too tightly. In contrast, the observer self would notice the desire and the accompanying thoughts, but it would respond differently. I acknowledge this desire. I feel its essence. I am open and present. I trust the unfolding of this reality. The energy is completely different. One pushes against the current, the other flows with it. This distinction is crucial because manifestation does not occur in the busy, reactive mind. It occurs in the conscious presence of the observer. Every thought, emotion, and feeling carries energy into the quantum field. When the old self is at the helm, that energy is fractured, anxious, and resistant. But when the observer self leads, that energy becomes coherent, aligned, and magnetic. The observer self knows that the field is already infinite and abundant. It does not need to manipulate it, it simply allows itself to resonate with it. And in this resonance, your desires begin to materialize effortlessly. The transition from the old self to the observer self is not instantaneous. It is a process of gentle awakening, a series of micro-shifts in perception and energy. It begins with awareness, noticing when you are reacting from fear, control, or obsession. Then comes conscious choice, deciding to step into the witness perspective, to observe without judgment, and to release the need to force outcomes. Over time, this practice rewires your relationship with reality. You begin to notice that the universe responds differently to you, that synchronicities increase, that opportunities appear with ease. The old self still surfaces, this is natural, But each time you return to the observer, your alignment deepens. Emotions are a vital part of this shift. The observer self is intimately aware of feelings, not to be consumed by them, but to understand what they signal about alignment. Fear, doubt, frustration, or impatience are all indicators that the old self is active. They are not evidence of failure, they are simply messages. When the observer self receives these messages with calm awareness, it transforms them. Fear becomes guidance, frustration becomes clarity, and doubt becomes a reminder to return to presence. In this way, the observer self does not fight the old self. It simply transcends it, offering a higher vantage point from which to navigate reality. Visualization and intention setting are tools that gain profound potency when filtered through the observer self. When you visualize from the reactive old self, the mind is cluttered with anxiety and expectation. The images may feel forced, disconnected, or heavy. But when the observer self engages with visualization, it becomes a conscious experience of resonance. You do not try to make it happen. You feel it as if it already exists. You embody the energy, the emotion, and the presence of your desired reality. This embodiment sends a coherent, magnetic signal into the quantum field, far more powerful than endless effortful thinking ever could. In essence, the observer self is the bridge between inner resonance and outer manifestation. Identity plays a central role in this shift. The old self identifies with limitation. I am not enough. This is hard. I must struggle to succeed. The observer self identifies with possibility. I am aware, I am aligned, I am a participant in creation. The difference is not subtle. It transforms every thought, emotion, and action. As you strengthen your identification with the observer self, the old self's influence diminishes. You begin to naturally operate from a state of alignment, where manifestation occurs as a byproduct of your being, rather than a result of endless striving. It is important to honor the journey. The old self is not an enemy, it is a familiar pattern, a set of habits that served a purpose in survival, growth, and adaptation. The observer self simply invites the old self into a higher perspective. It says, you are seen, you are acknowledged, but you are no longer the driver. Over time, the energy of the observer becomes dominant. Your thoughts are fewer, clearer, and more intentional. Your emotions are aligned, coherent, and reflective of your desires. And the universe responds with the same clarity, abundance, and ease that you now embody. The contrast between the old self and the observer self also helps illustrate the difference between fear-based creation and alignment-based manifestation. Fear creates contraction, tension, and limitation, and it often results in outcomes that reinforce the very fears we wish to escape. Alignment, on the other hand, creates expansion, coherence, and attraction. When you step into the observer self, you are no longer operating from scarcity or anxiety. You are operating from trust, clarity, and resonance. You are no longer chasing reality, you are embodying the reality that already exists at a higher frequency. This is the quantum leap, the moment where manifestation becomes effortless, natural, and inevitable. The beauty of the observer self is that it is accessible in every moment. It does not require perfection, ritual, or endless effort. It only requires awareness, choice, and presence. Begin by noticing your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Pause. Breathe. Allow yourself to witness without interference. Each time you practice this, you are strengthening the observer self. You are expanding your consciousness into a space where reality responds to clarity rather than chaos, to alignment rather than struggle. And as you continue, you will notice that fewer thoughts, less effort, and more spacious presence lead to the most profound manifestations you have ever experienced. At this point, you may begin to notice a recurring theme. The more you release control, the more the universe responds. Letting go of mental control is not about giving up or being passive. It is about trusting that reality is already intelligent, already responsive, and already aligned with your highest good. Most of us have spent our lives believing that control is power, that thinking harder, planning more, or micromanaging every detail is necessary to get the results we want. Yet in the realm of quantum manifestation, this very control is often the source of resistance. The more we attempt to force outcomes with our minds, the more the natural flow of reality seems to stall. It is a paradox, but one that is deeply transformative when understood. When you release control, you are not abandoning your intentions. On the contrary, you are holding them with clarity, without the tension, obsession, or doubt that often accompanies effortful thinking. This is where alignment comes into play. Alignment is not something you chase. It is something you embody. It is a state of being where your thoughts, emotions, and energy all harmonize with the reality you wish to experience. In this state, your desires no longer require struggle or persistence. They emerge naturally as if the universe itself is bending toward your resonance. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to letting go. The mind wants certainty, it wants guarantees, and it fears the unknown. But the observer self, the aligned self, understands that uncertainty is not dangerous, it is fertile. In the quiet space created by letting go, infinite possibilities arise. Synchronicities appear, opportunities present themselves, and solutions often come that the mind could never have engineered. You begin to notice that the universe is not random or indifferent, it is responsive, intelligent, and deeply supportive. The less you interfere, the more the flow of life orchestrates events in your favor. Releasing control also allows for ease in action. Action taken from a place of alignment feels effortless, inspired, and intuitive, rather than forced or strained. You begin to act less from obligation or fear and more from curiosity, joy, and resonance. These inspired actions, guided by alignment, often produce far greater results than the frantic pushing of the old self. Every step becomes a dance, every choice becomes a natural extension of your inner clarity, and every moment becomes a platform for manifestation. Ultimately, letting go of mental control is an invitation to trust yourself, trust the universe, and trust the process of reality itself. It is a gentle surrender into the intelligence of the field, where fewer thoughts, less force, and more alignment create the conditions for effortless manifestation. In this state, you are no longer struggling to make reality conform to your ideas, you are allowing reality to reflect the fullness of who you already are. And in that reflection, your desires arise with grace, ease, and certainty, revealing the truth of quantum manifestation, that reality shifts most profoundly not through thinking more, but through thinking less, being more, and trusting deeply.